because that's what both Gaming Gladiators and Outlast really struggled with on the first Playday. Their just general consistency as a team was underwhelming for a lot of people, and I'm in that same boat as well. So I'm hoping today on a map that both teams kind of know like the back of their hand, that can change.
Glad you made your position known. Not at all confused about where you stand. John, unhappy with Gaimin Gladiators' performance yesterday. You can quote him on that.
I would have to agree with that. Yes, I cannot deny. I was very upset.
Were you?
But it is what it is.
You were screaming from
yes,
fury.
There were walls were being torn down, stud by stud.
John's favorite player, Jolton, was not top fragging, and he was furious.
Say la vie is what it is.
Yeah.
At least the bans are pretty normal though. Gotta admit that. Thatcher, Flores, Valkyrie. Well, though, Mira is an option, but she's not, in my opinion, that great here on Villa. She can be countered pretty easily just with some simple vertical play, which happens a lot on Villa. So I like the Wamai pick as a ban much more in comparison to the Mira, and at least in my opinion.
Again, for you and I personally, seeing a Wamai ban after a Flores ban, little weird, not because it doesn't make sense. Just again, as we said about 2 games ago, for a while, we'd be like, oh, Wamai ban. Oh, they didn't do that. Guess Wamai is up here? No. See the counterplay between the Wamai and the Flores. But as you said, Mira is pretty easily countered in a lot of situations on Villa. Try to put that black mirror in, say, games. You can go down into the library, take it down. Same with trophy statuary. What is a lot harder to deal with, though, is this Tachanka, well, not Tachanka smoke combos we often see, as well, there actually is no smoke, but still this Tachanka playing inside of the site, who, if they've got their lineups down, can put a Shumika grenade on the landing for main stairs, on the bottom of main stairs, if they're watching through the holes made in front of bar. There is no smoke here, though, and that's important to note, because it means we may not actually see the defense look over to main stairs all that much. We have some ADSs, but without that dual denial for the smoke and the Tachanka, this strategy is a little bit more difficult. I wanted to see, by the way, if Outlast was going to keep that glass, because I know, the desk talked about, oh, they don't attack or repick that much, and I was like, surely they're not going to keep the glass, right? But no, not only do we see that, oh my lord, Athena is not playing Zero. I'm amazed.
This cannot be the real Athena. This mustn't be true.
This has to be a different game, right? Like, this is not...
We have found a doppelganger impersonating Athena right now, as they're not going for the beloved Zero pick. The one nice thing, though, about the Tachanka pick is that range advantage that he does have in comparison to the smoke. So he can just sit in the back of bar and deny the default plant that normally works in through Skull Doorway heading into map. And also, it's not that hard to rotate from main stairs back into bar, so having Beastly kind of multitasking perhaps to at least help out Arrow is not a bad option at all. But the Jaeger will be solo holding for now with a shield and some ADSs to boot as well, just trying to waste some time and utility against Outlast. Not a bad option, as they're actually opted to go for Study first and foremost, which on paper sounds good. They removed this one power position early on, but the only problem is if you don't see those late rotates happen by Outlast, they kind of fall into a bunch of funnels, and that just allows Gaming Gladiators to kind of pick up the slack that was left off in the beginning of this action phase.
No slack just yet. The rope still hasn't even really been picked up by either team. Still just trying to find some of these positions. We've yet to see Outlast put even a little bit of utility over on that main stairs. I think we've seen one grenade by Atheno, maybe. And even then, only a couple Shumika grenades by Beastly, though a couple more will fly through momentarily. As Woos takes the first bit of damage, likely from Quartz playing on that hole made behind the bar. Outlast being stopped in their tracks by these flame grenades right now, and Quartz just barely finding an angle onto Woos will put him even lower. But still, over half the round gone, and not much has happened. But Outlast are ready and willing to sprint into that main stairs position, and what do you know? It ends up working.
Wasted plenty of time at least, and now we have Gaming Gladiators aware as to how Outlast want to push this, but they do have a gigantic advantage. Beastly downed as well, can thankfully pick back up, but there's a well-tossed grenade by Blank to get rid of Jolton, and now it's only a 2 versus 4 with both Beastly and Quartz very low on HP.
John, I want to be honest, I looked down at my notes to write down the opening kill, and then I did not expect to look back up and everyone on Gaming Gladiators to be dead, so... that was not what I anticipated, but Outlast getting very quick once they got that first pick, stomping up those main stairs, putting Quartz and Beastly both low. Beastly might have some important utility, but even that is fairly low, and he's not in a Very workable position to lay down some Shumika grenades. Tra hits him with a drive-by and nails a two-piece for round number 1, as they're stopped at the bottom of those main stairs for over half the round, and it takes them less time to finish it than it did to even set up.
And even though we had Outlast kind of stall, it was more or less just to make sure they had enough util to get rid of Arrow, and it paid dividends. That was the immediate opening pick by Blank onto that Jaeger. Then the Tachanka had to fall back. He ended up getting downed as well by some grenades. And the fact that we just saw full-fledged complacency by Gaimin Gladiators, not a single person trying to go on that flank, not anybody trying to add some variety to that defense, it just allowed Outlast to have a very simplistic attack once they killed Arrow. It was so straightforward, getting in from study through the balcony and also just walking up main stairs once Beastly had to fall back. It allowed Outlast to have just an overall a great opening round to display what they're capable of on a map like Villa.
Now moving to trophy statuary. Atheno, again, not on the 0. Incredible. He is on Amaru. Okay, never mind. There we go. I was about to say, I don't think we'll see the Amaru pick stick, but I was just going to I was going to be amazed for a second. He'll go back to the Finko, which he played in round number 1. So keeping with as many nades as they could possibly bring without overdoing it a little bit. 2 sets between Tra, Blank, and Atheno. And with that, a good lineup, it seems like, to even go for a direct take. There's no hard breach denial on the board for Gaimin Gladiators. They could very quickly maybe throw a nade over that wall to deny Beastly from impact tracking, and then open that up without wasting too much effort on other parts of the map.
Yeah, more or less, they could just go for a linear kind of push in through the bottom floor and then just kind of work their way up, have a multi-approach leading in through Astro stairs from both the stairs itself, and then also people coming in through Master Bedroom. They've got that going for them, and then they can just go in for a default plant leading in through the triple statuary wall, like you had mentioned, because there is no wall denial, and that looks to be the main option here for Outlast. They're not going to really expect any immediate outlash by their opponents just yet, as we have a bigger emphasis on that top floor extension leading into Aviator. But there is still Sykes, of course, roaming out in your living room, but if he is spotted out, he might need to make that make or break call of whether he wants to have Arrow back him up and go for some sort of trade game potentially, or a crossfire with Sino, or if he wants to fall back and just reposition for the later ends of the round.
Nade just goes a little bit too far to the right for Joltness. He's repositioning utility, but loses a lot of HP. Arrow, he loses some, but wins more engagements than he loses in health. Woos and Tra, the duo that joined Outlast in between stages 3 and this new season, well, they both end up falling on Astronomy Stairs, and they'll be absent the rest of this round. The hard breach as well on Outlast falls pretty soon after. A nade, though, that was missed early on, but finally finds its target. Here is about the only good thing going for Outlast in the past 30 seconds.
The fact that we didn't have anybody try to burn through util on the Astro window or even play there to begin with, slash have any type of information on Arrow's position, did allow him to find basically 2 free kills, and now just able to reposition, even moving further back in the site as well, just to kind of play for that man advantage, as it's only Athena and Blank left. They have 1 drone and the Geminis to gather this information, and still both 1 nade in the pocket, so there is a chance to equalize things in this last minute, but they have to be almost completely perfect to a T to make sure they can get that 2 versus 2 position and still have a fighting chance to have this round still be a win in their back pocket.
And it's so unfortunate for Athena. We knew that where he was aiming initially, that would have been a kill right there. That's 2v2. But instead, he throws it, does not have the info we have, and the nade goes wide. Now, if they want to get 2 rounds in a row, their shots have to be precise. He did not miss any opportunities here. They want to win a second one in a row. Sure, losing an attack on Villa isn't the worst thing in the world, but hey, you got the lead right now. Don't lose it here. It's only round number 2. Atheno's struggling to move up right now, hoping that maybe he can find something with the lack of intel he has right now. It's actually Gaimin Gladiators who have that leg up on him. Hard pings on his position in Astronomy. The question is, are they aware of Blank moving into bricks as well? Some shots go through. Squirts takes down that very same player, and Arrow with a 3K to round off round number 2 for Gaimin Gladiators.
And again, I mentioned this on the last best of 1 matchup, kind of jumping the gun. We didn't see that a lot, at least for the last team of Card & Co. But for Outlast, they did that almost textbook. They got way too carried away and wanted to immediately try to flush out anybody that was playing on that middle ground in their living room, for example, and also Arrow on Astra without really having a full idea as to how they wanted to approach that. And for Outlast as well, they didn't really have any type of backup plan in case things went south when trying to take care of Arrow. They didn't have anybody in Master Bedroom in a quick enough time to play for that cutoff angle. They had nobody playing for util. And again, I'm quite positive that nobody even droned out Arrow, and they only figured out he was on Astro Stairs when he found the opening kill favoring Gaimin Gladiators. So a pretty big lack of proper situational awareness there by Outlast really did cost them a lot of blood, and that was just one of the main driving factors that kept Gaimin Gladiators in the driving seat in that past round, Carter.
Intel seemed to be the problem for Outlast, as you said, and Gaimin Gladiators, well, assuming that trend continues, could be another case in round 3 of them having that one over on Outlast. We see Beastly on the Pulse, a very common pick on Dining, so I don't think Outlast will be too surprised. They drone the site, see the Pulse, or see a C4 go from below. They can probably put 2 and 2 together and say, hey, I think somebody's down below with a heartbeat scanner, if I were to trust that one. We even see Blank go to the IQ, likely in response, hoping maybe to spot that heartbeat scanner, if not some pre-placed or very quickly placed C4s on the floor below Bedroom. Actually believed that Blank right next to Beastly just now. So we might see an engagement between these two early on if Blank can find him.
Maybe Mailing open that doorway to go for a C4, Charles, perhaps, or just to have it instantly open up for a very loud audible cue. Not quite sure, but Arrow actually gets aggressive, and I guess Athena was not expecting that to happen. I don't blame him. That was a very risky play, but it really worked out for Gaimin Gladiators to get that first pick, and already losing out on your flank watch and one of your main pieces of general burn for the ADSs is definitely going to be a huge issue moving into the latter end of the round. But so far, the only issue that's really going to provide is A, that flank watch, and B, just being a gun down for the moment.
Right as he went back to the 0, John, right as he picks back, he goes back to it, and he dies first. That is tragic. That is a Shakespearean tragedy right there, but got to keep going. Lose out on that burn, as you said. Unfortunately, the situation here, Outlast lose another option to go for that utility. Sometimes we'll see teams get a bit aggressive with those SAM cams. They'll try to put them in a spot that maybe goes past a defender, might be able to get the better of him, get in a position where a drone might not be able to. But here, no. All they can rely on the normal drones they have and Blank to do some work with that IQ electronic scanner, along with the vertical play to be sure, and that very vertical play might have worked Beastly into a tricky spot. He's sort of trapped over by Bicycle, or oh, that's actually Quartz trapped inside a Bicycle right now, trying to work himself an exit strategy with that shotgun on the wall over Red Stairs.
And I like how for Gaimin Gladiators, they are not fully complacent on just sitting completely in the site and letting this vertical go down. They are actually still trying to lurk a bit on this first floor. They have crossfires established. So even if we see some aggression by Outlast try to work a pick like we saw there, there's a high chance of a refrag. But in that position, Woo's had so much natural cover that the trade is not possible. So things are actually equalized here with Outlast not really in any lead, but at least they deny the man advantage for Gaimin Gladiators for the time being.
And whatever small microscopic lead they had, undone by both Arrow and Jolton, tag teaming Woos with a toxic canister and 416 bullets. Tra tries to send a nade down, but I think it actually doesn't even go through the floor and gets caught on the rafters. He's got to pull back, try to rework that angle with much less utility. Arrow is just waiting, hoping that somebody walks over one of those holes above him. Maybe Gaimin Gladiators are looking a little bit too high, as Jewel, sure, on 1 HP, is slowly moving his way into sight, and has done so progressively, but he's right in the middle of, well, Arrow's line of sight, and Jolton might fall, but Jewel was certainly not making it difficult for Arrow in any way, shape, or form to shut down that plant. As Blank falls soon after, Traw sprints right into Sykes' spray, and it's 2 rounds in a row where Arrow gets a 3K, aided by one of his other teammates.
And again, I briefly mentioned the crossfire capabilities. The team play there was phenomenal by Gaimin Gladiators. They did not have anybody go for solo peaks almost every single time we saw an engagement in that last 30 seconds when the execute was finally happening by Outlast. And that allowed just that sigh of relief that they had at least the potential for a trade, even when they had the man advantage, which honestly, when you have the man advantage, that's all you need to do is play for the trade game and force your opponents to make that first move, which is exactly what happened. We had Jewel entering the site first, who was the person who was lowest on HP and had the case. So they weren't trying to work a pick. They had to go for a plant position with really no proper coverage, and that allowed Gaimin Gladiators to exploit the fact that A, they were low on resources, and B, low on HP, again, especially for Jewel, because he was one shot away from being put in the dirt.
Still can't get over that. I was like, my mind initially was like, oh no, Arrow TK Jolton. But then my human brain was like, oh, well, I mean, Jewel is literally right there. Like, what's that going to do? So, a little scared initially. Then, yeah, it was pretty easy after that one. AVG has been the only site where Outlast has found success so far, and it was success that didn't really seem like it was happening until the round was pretty much over. They stood at the bottom of that main stairs for quite a long time. Then all of a sudden, Arrow fell, and then everyone on Gaimin Gladiators fell, except Beastly and Quartz, who were both on 1 HP in a 2v5. So Outlast, when they did win this site, they had quite a bit of success. Gaimin Gladiators right now are running back the exact same setup they did before. So surely Outlast can get a handle on this one, especially with some new tools in their arsenal.
Well, they are trying to go for that normal master clear rather than starting out on study, which does seem a bit odd because they did a very good job of getting rid of that main pressure at a decent time and not giving away all that much on their side besides just common resources, but that was used for good measure to get rid of that main pressure and also have those grenade kills and regular damage just be so potent against Gaimin Gladiators. But like I mentioned, they'll opt to go through Master, leading now inside of Statuary, and maybe clearing out through 90 much earlier in the round, which again, for heading in for more of a study kind of approach, it is kind of a power position to hold, but now heading in through Statuary, this is a much easier part of the map to clear, especially when no one's playing on red, so you don't need to deal with that tricky crossfire. It's just 1 or 2 people stacked up near the 90 hallway or the corner itself, and a well-tossed flash grenade or even a frag grenade could be their inevitable demise.
The E1D as well, they can rely on freezing those defenders if they're pushed too far up. They've got all the utility to make this work, even though they are switching from a winning strategy that got them their one and only attacking victory. So far, they haven't met much resistance. They'll just continue sending some drones into the site and not finding anything there. Tra hoping that maybe Sykes will stick his head in the study doorway and he can get an easy, free opening pick. But Tra's not doing it. Well, neither Sykes, I suppose. Neither really moving whatsoever, just holding their positions right now. As Outlast continues their slow march up 90 and maybe down books later on, but Gaimin, they're just waiting for Outlast to make the first move.
There goes the first of many lion scans. A small opening made in the middle of the hunting wall, nothing to actually enter through, and only a small opening again just for maybe someone to find a kill perhaps, but no one's overtly swinging that just yet on the attacking side. Kind of a standstill really for Outlast. Eventually they'll get at least somebody to rotate up inside a study balcony to maybe deal with Sykes, but so far it's just really the combo for the Storm, and eventually that Storm will finally be approached upon at least by Outlast, as they really need to work for this pick by Sykes, but oh no, he catches the Haban off guard.
Wow.
And that one rotation has completely failed Carter.
Honestly, pretty smart play by Sykes. Takes advantage of the sometimes relaxation attacking teams get when that EU1D goes out. He says, oh yeah? I know there's going to be one study player. Don't be calm. Always have your head up. And, well, he certainly will cement that lesson in Jewel's mind. That was not the player with the diffuser, thankfully, but that was your player to watch the study rotate. And with Quartz getting active inside of the site, same with Arrow as well. Outlast do not have a lot of good things going for them. Athena is forced to send it through an Aruni gate, and he can't even contemplate, can't even decide on what angle to watch in that 1v4 as Gaimin take their 3rd round in a row.
And you could tell that even when we had a slightly different approach from what Gaimin Gladiators expected, that just played right into their strengths. They still had a very good presence in study, for example. They still had plenty of people stacked up near the farther regions of the 90 hallway, even leading back in through bookshelves / the bar doorway. And especially not having any proper pressure near study that was really long lasting and not the hunting wall opened up. It was basically a funnel by Outlast, and they had no options beside just walking in through Skull doorway and getting caught in a crossfire that they weren't in a good enough position to actually deal with properly. So that was still a good recovery by Gaimin Gladiators, now taking 3 round wins in a row, heading back to trophy. I mean, if we don't see something drastic change here for Outlast, Carter, we might be bound to see a very one-sided matchup here with Gaimin Gladiators taking away a lot in this first half.
It would certainly make us look silly again, because before the game started, to call it a mass exodus from Gaimin Gladiators, at least in our predictions, would probably be an understatement. I believe most of everyone in production switched. I think Parker remained, Brim remained. I think that might have been the only couple people. Of course, CJ was Gaimin Gladiators, but he's not here, so doesn't matter. Yeah, you can see 3 people, me, Connor, and Harrison, all changed our predictions. You, John, though, you were an early Outlast defender. And yet, you might be. You would probably look the most foolish in that case, I suppose. We were swept up in the groundswell of enthusiasm, but you, if you're wrong, you thought so from the beginning. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I think it's not over until it's over, Carter. So how about we get back into the matchup at hand, perhaps?
2 rounds. 2 rounds after the timeout. Plenty of. Honestly, like, to be fair, I like joking. I like memeing around. But after a timeout, still 2 rounds of the attack, especially how solid the first one looked, it is very possible that Outlast could. Obviously, I can't say we'll win the match outright, but at least even things up 3-3 or get a 4-2 at that. Sure, we're going to Trophy Statuary, where their attacking strategy seemed to just be walking up Astro and hoping for the best. I would like it if they did something different here, but after that timeout, I'm sure they will.
Potentially, instead of starting out with that first floor presence, maybe just committing to somewhere on the top floor, whether that be heading in through study to get rid of the aviator and bar extension, or going into master, because again, there's no wall denial. That opens up at least one point of direction besides the regular brick doorway between both master and the site of statuary, to have something early in your pocket, and then you can kind of build off of that foundation you just had next to either master or study. Looks like they'll go for study first and foremost, already heading in the top of main stairs, but there is a plethora of utility and also a plethora of players as well in these two areas, so that can allow for some pretty vital team play, and if absolutely necessary, the fallback is definitely a valid option here for Gaimin Gladiators, just to make sure that Outlast does not get away with anything too outlandish this early on.
Well, they won't get away with anything, in fact. Tra tries to take a fight with Sykes, but Sykes just shuts that one down, not even worried about his position behind bar right now. Thought we might see either Quartz or Sykes fall based on how many players for Outlast are moving forward, and well, one will, though not by a gunfight. It'll be a nade from below, good utility placement by Blank, and now Woos has his opening to try to cut through the heart of this extension into Aviator Games. Though the body itself has now gone. They've all tucked tail, turned back towards the site, so Outlast have this control on the southern side, but all they took down was a Malusi, and they lost to set of nades in the process while expending their other set. Yeah, I think Gaimin Gladiators come ahead with that one. Well,
yeah, I wouldn't be too upset about that. All right, then, Jolton.
That changes things. That changes the calculus a little bit.
Drastically. Because now there's only one main denial that we have, and that is Beastly with Evil Eyes. You could maybe argue the impact grenades as well, but with no one playing underneath, that could be a very difficult task to accomplish with only the impacts and not something like a Nitro Cell. Jewel as well, rotating up near Astro Window, and eventually I would assume someone playing near Master. This does allow much more options for Outlast, especially since they have that man advantage and don't need to worry about spreading themselves thin because there's only a handful of positions they truly need to worry about for this final push.
I have to say, the smoke dying about 0.5 seconds after Outlast walked past Aviator Games was not on my bingo card for this match, or this round in particular, but hey, anything to give Outlast that 4-2 split could potentially work. Beastly also not caught, but a little bit more insecure in his position inside a master bedroom right now. Some shots fly through that window. He'll retreat back into bathroom as he's pushed very far up for the Maestro, hoping that since maybe nobody pushed bedroom, he was safe there. And, well, so far, it is certainly true, as Quartz is the one making things dangerous for Outlast over outside of Statuary. Woos manages to mitigate any future damage, but the damage is done. A 1v2 now, as the entire attack was undone by Quartz pushing through that doorway, and Arrow with a nice 2-piece rounds it out, and rounds out their 4th defensive win for Gaimin Gladiators.
I really cannot believe they just allowed the Thunderbird just to kind of walk at them and not have really anything to counteract that. Maybe having more people stacked up over inside of Master to go for more of that default play could have been a better option since it was only the Maestro playing overtly aggressive. But just, again, just having that small moment of an opportunity to work that pick when you're at the disadvantage and you know your post-plant denial is simply not there, again, besides the Evil Eyes. That was an incredibly good call by, I believe it was Quartz, out on the Thunderbird to just go wrap around at the literal exact moment that was needed to go and get the job done and stop basically half of the attacking setup that was had by Outlast in those last dying moments. So their 4th round in the books, now they're heading back inside the kitchen and dining. They were able to hold down this bomb site pretty effectively just by stalling Outlast completely. And again, that intel game really not being up to par against Gaimin Gladiators. This is not looking all hopeful, even for me, someone who thought Outlast would have a much easier time, at least so far in Villa.
I might have flamed you earlier a little bit, but then again, 3 of us, besides you, also did join them, so could be looking very silly, especially depending on how this round ends. Villa not nearly as defender-sided as it once was, as Gaimin Gladiators have, especially Arrow as well on the defense, have really been showing up. Arrow doing so much of the work that Beastly, our highlight player, certainly is not in a position where he has to win for the team today. He might have felt that burden against Aqualix yesterday, but today, no, it's been Arrow, and he can chill in sight with a heartbeat scanner if he wants to. Doesn't need to worry. Sykes also on the roam, getting active, getting aggressive. So he's pretty much chilling downstairs right now. It's the same setup, by the way, from Gaimin Gladiators as well, so we'll see how Outlast decide to deal with this, and it looks like they might be going for a full horizontal clear this go-around.
Well, they do have the sledge. Playing for vertical is not a bad idea. It does seem like at the beginning they might want to apply more pressure in through living room, deal with that lurk that allowed for multiple crossfires to be had towards the last minute of Kitchen when it was first in play by Gaimin Gladiators. Then maybe after they kill those players like Sykes, for example, or at least force him back in the site, they could then work their way up above, go for that vertical. But they could completely ignore it as well. They might not want to deal with the multiple sets of nitro cells on the board by both Quartz and Beastly, and instead they just want to go full horizontal and then have a late rotate leading into Pantry and also Laundry to have still that multifaceted approach, but without having to need the vertical in that equation.
Sykes does need to be careful right now, as yes, Tra, as I was about to say, right on cue, Tra is down below, waiting for the defenders in living room to hop down that hatch. So Arrow has probably made the decision, he's staying here, even if it means his death. Quartz is close by and makes things a little bit easier with Tra now down, but Arrow quickly falls thanks to Atheno. Jolton also outside, pushed very far up outside of the site by living room. We'll see if Outlast are a bit better on their intel game here, and if they've spotted Jolton playing in this position.
Still have him there, though, and a shield as well, so if a nade potentially gets tossed out, that does give him time to fall back and will most likely get caught in the shield and not the player himself. The cast canister will get tossed out as well, buying him even more time and maybe allowing Gaimin Gladiators to get extra aggressive and properly rotate around to make sure that they actually have enough force to stop this push by Outlast, because once again, they have the man advantage. They just need to make sure they don't get tunnel vision and force on more than one direction, and there goes the tunnel vision and the isolation to now give a great equalizer for Gaimin Gladiators.
That's payback for using the Russian reflex sight on the R4C. That's what I would call that, because that is a very weird combination. Woos makes things a little bit easier now, keeps the man advantage, takes down Jolton, playing in that position, but Quartz is looking to retake the very ground that Outlast just fought so long to make, but no. Atheno turns around at the exact right time, cuts down the mute as he makes his way through living, but Beastly is not without help. He's got some intel on the player down on the bottom of Astro stairs right now. He's the only one who's currently covering Jewel. Sends out the C4, and that forces Jewel off, and Atheno can't make it work. He pushes on in, a little bit of sleep at the wheel as he moves into Kitchen. And now Jewel doesn't have a lot of time. He's got to stick this plant with intel on him as well. He's got to fall off and win this fight. He turns around, but Beastly's better in this case. 1v2 to get a 5-1 half for Gaimin Gladiators. And 2 Villa attacks, especially against a weaker Outlast, it seems. We'll have to hope these first couple defenses are good enough as we might hope.
And once again, for Outlast just jumping the gun, they had the position in 3v1 to just play for cutoffs, play passive, force Beastly to go for a hero play on the pulse as well. One of the worst guns in the game, the UMP-45, yet you're allowing him to go for one-for-ones. That is just something that does not sit well for me for Outlast, because they really had that round in the bag. They were rotating around to play for that plant position, and we had cutoffs being attempted, but really to no avail against just one man, and one man alone, that being Beastly. A 5-to-1 split. I mean, I had my doubts for Gaimin Gladiators, but they really have cleaned up their act, especially in comparison to the first Playday, and they did God's work, really, on that first half, and it looks like their momentum is still top-notch moving in the second half.
Outlast will present them with a new challenge, though. Some of the same players as before, and by players, I mean operators. Bit of confusing terminology on my part. That one's on me.
Attackers have discovered the location.
Got the Pulse down below. This one has the M10. I do believe we actually saw that quite a bit during Rels, actually. Blank using, or at least Outlast using a lot of that Pulse with the shotgun. We sometimes see, so no UMP clutch like we saw Bex just do. But they also have the Echo this go around to stop any plants moving into the site. Also some additional intel on top of some intel denial for Roos on the Vigil. So tackling a lot of different areas on this defense, both on the site and off of it.
Well, For Outlast now on the defense, they kind of have to pretend as if that first half never really happened and just kind of work with the new slate they have been given, with the sides eventually switching. For Gaming Gladiators, they just need 2 more clean rounds, and they will get this as a very fast victory here on Villa. And they're still going for just the regular strats. They want to go for that top to bottom push, and having Sykes actually open up the laundry door already to maybe see if you can try to get a pick if someone overextends to their position, and that could maybe be a rally call for Gaming Gladiators to maybe jump the gun and just try to rush the site. A grenade gets tossed, dealing plenty of damage to both Blank and Jewel, but no one dying outright, so it's still a good position for both teams, as now Beastly gets the favor returned onto him, but thankfully can survive that Nitro Cell to open up that laundry wall with the Exkyrus charges.
Jewel, please be careful. That is, against the LMG, that is not the fight. Even without that C4, that is not the fight I would take right now, especially with nades still in their pockets. He's trying. He's got heart. He's got spunk. I admire it. Playing close with that shotgun, probably the safer bet. Be spotted out by Sykes once again, as there's also some vertical play coming up above, or at least, I believe that might just be the Nomad using holes pre-made by the defense, but it doesn't matter, because Woos is up there, and Arrow might not have fully anticipated the impact that Vigil might have. This leaves Gaimin Gladiators with something that's fairly one-dimensional. Most of the remaining attackers are all in pantry right now, and I don't think if they send it up the stairs, that's going to work out.
I would like to think not either, since Outlast have plenty of denial. They still have 1 Nitro Cell, and they've got the Yokais as well, so a plant going down doesn't seem that likely unless a couple of extra kills are given for Gaming Gladiators. That's not going to be the case up until now. Quartz finds at least 1 opening on Athena, but other than that, it's been nothing but net for Outlast, putting themselves in a 4v2.
Well, Sykes, one of the remaining players, was not in that scuffle over by Pantry. He's still the third to fall. As Beastly moves in, he dies. And not really much to say beyond Gaimin Gladiators lost half of their dimensions, and the other one was inside a Pantry, and most of them died pretty soon after Arrow did.
The big thing there, I feel, for Gaming Gladiators is they might have gotten a bit too carried away with wanting to get laundry control before even worrying about the top floor presence. Normally, it's a very simple step-by-step process that players and teams go through, and that order normally needs to be followed to a full T. Getting that top floor presence to deal with the roam game effectively from multiple areas, then playing with the vertical, and then moving into laundry is normally the default. But for Gaming Gladiators, they did the opposite, and that caused them, because less of a presence was made on that top floor, allowing Woos to only have to worry about 1 attacker at a time, and then that just forced the rest of Gaming Gladiators to go for a play that they really weren't in a good position to accomplish properly, of just only walking in through laundry, which they didn't even have a good opening in through the hard wall to do that properly, and just pantry, which again is another very fatal funnel. So good job by Outlast to really shut out their opposition in that last round, but they've got to keep up the good work, as there are still plenty of rounds to go before they can equalize this massive deficit.
And if Gaimin Gladiators have done their homework, something that Outlast have brought as recently as relegations to try and vary things up and throw off their opponents has been this clash on Aviator Games. If I recall correctly, I believe we saw Athena run it at least once. I might be wrong, just because I'm second guessing myself, and I do that sometimes. I do have a faint memory of it. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. But either way, I do believe Athena has played this clash here before, and with that VOD being very recent, I'm sure Gaming Gladiators might be able to read into it, bring the utility necessary. They have plenty of grenades as well as those concussions to work with. But maybe they're going for main stairs. I don't know. They all vaulted through that window very quickly, and they're all bunched up very close together inside of living rooms. So maybe they were just getting in the building quickly. I don't know. It looked like very aggressive just to get that initial bit of map control.
At least they have it now, though.
True.
They begin to make rotations and
Confident.
potentially get ready to go for some grenades. They've got 6 of them, so they can just throw them out underneath, and that could catch a lot of the anchor game off guard, especially if they kill somebody like the Clash or the Smoke, for example, that have a lot of good time waste potential, or maybe even just catch somebody like Blank off guard. They've got air jabs deployed, so going for that flank is very risky, and that might not pay off in what Outlast probably anticipated moving into this 8th round. So again, there are plenty of options here for Gaming Gladiators. They just have to remember the step-by-step process, and at some point have someone perhaps late rotate around near red stairs or near the back of 90 to make sure they don't end up funneling themselves like they did on the kitchen and dining attack.
First nade goes out. Now, Jewel's position a little bit more difficult to play, but all that's pretty much it. See that first nade, but Gaimin Gladiators still just trying to let the utility do the talking. They'll send out 2 more in tandem, though, but I believe both are caught by ADSs. But Sykes instead uses that as a feint. He walks up, doesn't get the clash, of course, as she's got a bulletproof shield separating her and the rest of the attack. But Sykes gets the smoke player, and I'll take that, to be perfectly honest with you. In conjunction with main stairs control, you know where the clash is now. You know she's got to fall back. Now you can do the rest of the work around the site.
Located by attackers.
Thankfully, they have at least someone playing out near 90 to help them out, but so far, besides that 90 pressure, nothing has been done well by the side of Outlast. Blank may find one, having backup by Traw as well, and the backside could at least prolong this inevitable play, but it's still a man advantage. Technically, only 2 guns up because Atheno is one of those players alive, and again, he's on the clash, so we are technically in a great gun position for Gaimin Gladiators just to kind of blitzkrieg in the site and still have this as a win to put themselves in match point.
Can't get too careless, though. Athena's in the site, and I don't believe can go through that rotate, unfortunately, so unlucky there, but that's what I was about to say. There are players that can still contest the attackers over by books, and that's exactly what Trod does. Sykes, who opened things up wide for Gaimin Gladiators in this round, shut down by the Aruni, but Jolton does the same in response to the Alibi getting aggressive on Skull Door. They'll take that as their cue to send it in towards the site, and there's not much they can do to contest Beastly on this plant. With no intel on his position and both stuck inside of games, Atheno gets one, but Beastly makes quick work of him once he puts that shield away. Traz worked himself up on this reinforcement, but he's working with the same amount of intel Atheno had, and now he's got one less teammate to make it work. He still pre-fires out and puts Arrow down to half HP, but he's spotted by Beastly. Now the Yana's going in for the kill, and land it he does. Match point for Gaimin Gladiators. 1 round away from the same scoreline as our previous one.
And I guess for Outlast, they might have just completely forgotten, or no, it was Gaimin Gladiators, my mistake, that have completely forgotten about 90, but it didn't really matter, again, because they just had so much of a dominating presence over near Study and the back area of 90 at the very least, that they were just able to kind of brute force their way into the site and still opt to go for that post-plant position. And again, I talked about Athena on the Clash. It's a great way of stalling, don't get me wrong, but it's still a gun down, because that secondary pistol, it's very tough to utilize properly. And although we did find 1 kill favoring the Clash, she was quickly refragged, and it basically made up for the fact that that singular kill was found, and it forced a 2 versus 1 in not a very winnable position there for Outlast to deny match point. So already, 4-round advantage, 6-2 for Gaimin Gladiators. I mean, they are just in a pristine condition to end out this matchup pretty quickly. Especially since Outlast are still just making a couple of fatal mistakes towards the end of this round that are it forces themselves to not be in a recoverable position against Gaimin Gladiators right now, Carter.
We all really look silly, don't we?
As always, I mean, it would not be the first time we got a silly prediction wrong. So.
I mean, that's true. We try. Sometimes we get excited. Saw Gaimin Gladiators falter yesterday. Saw Outlast, have some workable pieces today. Thought we could predict the upset, but unless Outlast win 4 rounds in a row, looking unlikely. This might be another one we put in the L column for at least you and I, John. We'll have to see, though. And see if Outlast can win out trophy statuary. This is the first time they have gone to this site on their defensive half, as, well, they've only gone to 2 sites, and they've already lost 1 of them. All of Gaimin Gladiators right now, John, all around each other outside Master Bedroom. I have an idea where they might be taking this one.
Would that be Study? That would make the most sense.
Probably. Basically, they got the Twitch, the Sledge. It's just the logical pick.
Of course. That would make the most sense as well. I'd have to confirm by that. Well, no, we are clearly wrong, as they are going in through Master, at least at the beginning of this round. We could maybe have them late rotate somewhere to help out, alleviate some of that pain near Astro, but having just somebody on the Astro window to maybe help with the small amount of utility, and then someone just playing in a Master bathroom, that should, in theory, be enough, depending on what exactly is positioned there by Outlast. They're not even directly holding it. They've got the Kai just kind of proxying near the rotation hold, and that's about it. So really, this could be a lot of early map control for Gaimin Gladiators to actually punish this lackadaisical position being held by Outlast, funny enough.
Joel sending out an impact grenade over that wall as the Electric Claw was dealt with, so he hopes that maybe he can take down some of the X-Kairos on the opposite side, but might have been a little early, or might have been on time. But either way, doesn't matter, because he ran out of impact grenades, and now the wall is opened, at least a little bit, on one of those panels, so you can't play as closely as you were before on it, and also, part of the rotation between Trophy and Statuary is now cut off. Gaimin Gladiators will now turn their attention to Woos on Astro Stairs, who somehow doesn't take a lick of damage from that nade that landed just behind him. So he'll be thanking his lucky stars for that one. Gaimin Gladiators have still not found what they need to push through this doorway.
Thankfully has the plot armor. They still want the redemption arc here. And still having woos inside of Astro Stairs as well. No grenades left. A flashbang could be enough to at least fully blind him and force him to retreat. But besides that, we kind of have Gaimin Gladiators once again at a brick wall that they haven't fully been able to topple down just yet. Even though they had the utility to clear it, they now, not even having the man advantage yet because they took forever to clear out woos, this is honestly looking to be a much more favorable position for Outlast, especially now that Jolton falls as well, and woos is still in a perfect position to deny a majority of the Gaimin Gladiators.
Now another Gaimin Gladiators member taking a one with Woos, but Beastly wins it out as opposed to Jolton. 3 kills go to Outlast way, and 3 return in the favor of the Gladiators. It's looking a lot more manageable now. They've cleared out Astronomy. They got 2 players over there. Pushing in through bricks might be a little bit too difficult, but they'll send out a couple smoke grenades. The Arrow's just trying to hold down this doorway for the moment. Trog gets a very important kill onto Beastly. Quartz is still trying to make it work as both defenders and attackers are isolated from each other. They have to win their own separate ones. Arrow does the work, and that gives Gaimin Gladiators some time to consolidate, to get the bomb down and for Quartz to cover. But Trog works around. He spots the head at the last moment. Arrow's got to go for the kills. He cannot go for the plant, and Trog catches him off guard. Arrow puts one shot in him before Trog seals his fate, and Outlast stave off defeat for just one more round.
And the big issue there for Gaimin Gladiators is once again the lack of patience there and genuine map control. Although they started out in the right direction, getting triple wall opened up, having someone on the Astro window repel, and having somebody in master bedroom, or bathroom, once again, my mistake, they took way too long to have Jolton work all the way around through the bottom of Astro Stairs. And even then, they still immediately rushed into woos, expecting him not to be there. And having Jolton may play for that cutoff angle, it just took way too long, and that allowed 2 kills to actually favor Outlast, and then it did not matter that they ended up getting a bit sloppy towards the end of that round after Roos found a 2K, because still confirming those 2 kills and weakening a lot of what Gaimin Gladiators were kind of relying on to get that round as a win, it managed to keep Outlast in a position where they could just play for that late round information and just be in an unknown location to, once again, isolate players and just win those vital gunfights to make sure they do not get kicked out of this Villa Best of 1 just yet. They're still holding on for another round.
So we'll return to Aviator Games, which, if you're an Outlast fan, not something to be happy about. By the way, did not know you get a Banshee there. Interesting spot. Cool spot, actually. But if you're an Outlast fan, you're not going to be excited by this, because this was the one site Gaimin Gladiators have won so far. They managed to get the bomb down, went out in the post plant as well. One thing that is a little bit different here, of course, Atheno not on the Clash this time. He's gone to the smoke, so they still have some of that time denial without forcing Atheno to basically be gunned down in the same situation that he was last time. And also maybe stall out on main stairs for a little bit longer, but it doesn't appear that they're actually holding over by that location that much.
Glad to see that Athena was not in the Clash. I feel like it had more problems than it did actually benefits for Outlast. I feel like it forced them to want to hold on to main stairs for far too long, and that lost one of their most important players, which was Jewel in the smoke. So much denial and time waste that can be had on that operator. It really did start to spell defeat there for Outlast, and losing out on Jewel once again, funny enough, this time on the other SAS operator of the Mute, is already a bad sign here, a bad omen as if for Outlast, but at least it wasn't on something as powerful as the smoke. It was just the Mute, who only had a pesky nitro cell.
Yeah, if you're an Outlast fan and you were shaken because of the site selection, because of who just died as the opening pick, you are probably very worried at where this is going. Woos also caught just completely motionless on a drone inside of Living. So, again, if you were shaken before, you were quivering after, you've probably fainted at this point, and you are very worried for how Outlast can win out round number 10. Because they're down 5-3. Blank is facing, or about to face, quite a lot of utility behind this shield on top of main stairs, and the one play they tried to make, which was Traw peeking master bedroom, did not really pan out all that much. Now, Gaimin Gladiators will start making their way up main stairs, and they're just one step closer to 7-3.
Only one Toxic Hamster left as well here for Athena. Main pressure gone too for Outlast. They are really limited on options, and also the player count too, quite literally. 5 versus 3 with Gaimin Gladiators just taking their time actually and having that proper patience. A nade gets tossed by Beastly as well, and now it's only a 5 versus 2. Outlast are in such a bad position, and now leaving only Atheno left to stand. He's full white in the middle of 90 as well, and he gets quickly taken care of by Arrow. It's a flawless round for the Gaimin Gladiators as they end out the series 7-3, I believe it to be.
Yes, 7-2-3. We were wrong, obviously. Gaimin Gladiators having a complete turnaround from where they were yesterday against AQ.